Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the 2021 West Midlands Mayor's Giving event launch. My name is Amanda James, and I'm delighted to be your host today. A little bit about me. In my day job, I work for Lloyds Banking Group as the Midlands Regional Connector, so that involves supporting communities, charities and organisations across the whole of our region. And I've been lucky enough to be involved with the West Midlands Giving Programme since its launch a couple of years ago. And this year I'm privileged to be the chair of the steering committee, which is represented by volunteers from businesses and organisations from across the West Midlands. But that's enough about me. We've got a full agenda for you today, and hopefully you'll find some fantastic insight, not only from the West Midlands Mayor himself, Andy Street, but also from some businesses and charities that have taken part in previous years. And I'm also delighted to say we have the privilege of having our mental health charity Birmingham Mind with us today, who will be giving us a brilliant discussion, I'm sure, about the positive impact volunteering can have on our own mental health. There will be a Q&A session at the end of our event today, so please do use the chat function on your screens to send any questions through as we're going along. We are monitoring them. I will try and answer as many as we can as possible in that session towards the end. So hopefully today we're looking for the event to end around 1:45. It is being recorded, so you will receive a copy of the link along with any other links mentioned today after the event, so nobody misses out. And now I would like to take the opportunity to introduce Andy Street, the West Midlands Mayor. But for those that don't already know, although I'm sure many of you do, a little bit of his background, because you just have to share it.
All out. It's embarrassing, Amanda.
Oh no, you'll be fine. But just to say that Andy was first elected as the mayor back in May 2017, and of course has won his second term in May this year. And the main focuses are the transport, housing, skills and jobs, and currently working towards a brilliant plan of getting 100,000 people across our region back into work following the coronavirus pandemic, which I know we've all felt in one way or another, the things that have caused that. So on that note, Andy, I will cut it short and I'll hand over to you.
Amanda, thank you very much. And you've given us very precise timings for this event today. So I'm going to follow your example and not overrun. It looks perfectly organised. But anyway, can I just say, first of all, a huge thank you to you, Amanda, for stepping forward to chair the steering group this year, and indeed to your organisation, Lloyds, because you've actually supported this endeavour since its start. So thank you very much. And I know we're going to hear from one or two others who've been supporters all the way through as well. So I'm looking forward to hearing from Ian after me, who I think, if I've got this right, chaired the steering group for the first time round as well. So it's worth just saying a little bit about why I'm so keen to do this. The idea isn't original to the West Midlands. The idea actually is stolen from London. They have been running what they call a Mayor's Giving Day, which is the City of London Corporation rather than Sadiq Khan, the whole of London, for about 10 years. And when I was first elected, the then Lord Mayor of the City of London got on a train and came to try to sell the idea to us. And I have to say, I was completely captivated by what they have done. And they've taken a number of years to really get it to quite a big scale. We've been held back, if we're honest, a little by the pandemic, but nevertheless, we have battled through. And the idea of it, to be really clear, is not for me to lecture everybody else about the fact they should step forward and do, in the old-fashioned language, CSR work, or that they should get alongside an individual charity. I'm sure great businesses are already doing all of that. But it is to actually shine a light at one period in the year on some of the great work that is being done, hopefully share some good practice as to how things work, and most importantly, think about building some really long-lasting relationships between businesses who want to do good and, of course, organisations, whether they be voluntary, third sector organisations, whatever, who can be beneficiaries of that. And I know we're going to hear about some brilliant examples of exactly that going on. And I guess the other reflection and why I was so determined that we should press on this year, even though it would have been so easy just to stand aside and say, given the pandemic, some things can't happen, is actually one of the most wonderful reactions to the pandemic, to pick up what you've just said, Amanda, is actually businesses have thought really deep about how they can very best contribute to society, and some wonderful initiatives have come forward. and the adversity that we've all faced has actually sort of been the mother of invention. So hopefully that spirit will go forward into the month that we have got ahead of ourselves. And I'm hoping that in the hour and a bit that we've got left to talk about it today, we're going to hear some really good examples, some sort of prods, some thoughts about how to make the very best of those intentions that everybody has. So that's all I wanted to say to kick us off, Amanda. Delighted to be able to join you and very excited about what we're going to achieve together. So thank you.
Brilliant, thank you, Andy. And you know, it is great to hear your thoughts and reflections over the last couple of years, especially as you say, the positive impact and difference we can all make to our communities if we all work together, help each other and support each other. It's what giving's all about, so thank you. And just to tell us a little bit more about the different giving themes that we have got lined up and how to get involved, I would like to introduce Ian Burrows from Brewing Dolphin. Ian's day job is an investment manager and head of the Specialist Charities Investment Management team, which is a bit of a mouthful for the Midlands at Brewing Dolphin. He's also a member of the investment subcommittee at Birmingham's Women's and Children's Hospital Charities. And alongside his day job, Ian has played, as Andy's already mentioned, an instrumental part of the West Midlands Giving since the beginning, and has acted as chair and co-chair in previous years. So Ian, over to you.
Amanda, I wasn't expecting to get my own bio with that, but that's amazing. Thank you. So Andy's already kind of given us a little bit of introduction into what it is, but what I wanted to do is just tell you a bit more about Giving Day, why you should get involved, and some more of the kind of examples and the activities that we talked about. Now, for us, we define giving very broadly, and when we say it, we mean it in its very broadest sense. And there's actually three major types of giving that we're talking about. It's about giving your skills, so your knowledge, your experience, your expertise from what you do as a day job, and using that for charities, for good causes, for the wider good. So whether that's a marketing firm who's going to review a charity's website or help them with their fundraising campaign, whether it's a solicitor who's going to review employment contracts for a charity, whatever it might be, that's really, really valuable. And I'm sure lots of charities, community groups and good causes would really appreciate that level of expertise. So one is skills. The second one is about giving your time. It's about giving volunteering in its broadest sense. So whether you are painting a fence, doing a bit of gardening or DIY, marshalling an event or mentoring some students, the things that anybody can do that by its own token is still really, really valuable. And the third one is the most obvious. It's about giving money. It's about fundraising for charities, for good causing, to give them the resources that they need so they can make the biggest difference. So for us to say giving in its broadest sense, it's giving skills, giving time and giving money. Now we acknowledge that every company on this call, well, you're all going to be different. You'll be different sizes, you'll be working in different sectors, and that what activity may suit one of you won't suit all of you. So for this giving event, we're not prescribing what you should do. We want to keep this as broad as possible. And for some of you, if all you can manage is half an hour at lunchtime on a Friday to run a team quiz and raise a little bit of money for charity, that's still brilliant, and that will be really, really appreciated. For others who are in such a position that they can put a team together that volunteer for a couple of days, again, fantastic. But please do what suits your organisation, what suits your skill sets, what you want to do at the end of the day. I mean, when we started this back in 2019, all our events were in person. Last year, of course, was different and everything was done online. This year, as with so much in life, we're expecting a bit of a hybrid approach. So please do feel free to have that flexibility. If you wanted to do it online, if that's suitable when the time comes, if that's really what's going to work best for you, then do it. By the same token, if you're bursting to get out and meet people face to face, again, as long as that's okay for the situation, feel free to do that too. One of the key things, and I think Andy kind of really mentioned this at the start, was that we want you to celebrate what you do. So please tell your staff about it, tell your clients, tell the world that actually this region is really, really good at what we're doing. The one key thing that I don't think I've mentioned so far is actually the key question is who do you do it for? And I think Andy's already covered this point as well, in that although I've got my own favourites, I'm sure Andy's got his own charities that he has favourites as well. We're not going to lecture you and specify who you should be volunteering for, who you should be donating money to. It's really about who has which charities do you have an affinity for? Which causes do you want to support? There are thousands, literally thousands of really great charities in this region. So you shouldn't find any difficulty at all in finding them. You know, there are many on this call, and I'm sure if you were just to put a message on social media, you'll probably be inundated with loads of great causes who want to take advantage of anything you can offer. I guess the key question then is why bother? Why do we want you to get involved? Why are we asking you to? And the answer is that if this goes really well, then Andy might put my name on the side of a tram rather than Jack Grealish's. Obviously, I'm joking. I can't see Andy, but I'm imagining he's shaking his head or possibly gesticulating at me. But no, the real reason is that we think if you can get involved, it'll be really, really good. It'll be good for you in terms of the sense of achievement, the pride that you can get personally. It's good for your staff in terms of bringing them all together, and actually we'll be hearing a little bit more about that later. It's great for recruitment in terms of bringing on new people who are really interested in this kind of thing. It's great for your company in terms of your positioning in the marketplace. And of course, it's brilliant for the local area and for the good causes involved. And obviously a reminder, if we all did a little bit, it would add up to a huge, huge difference. So please, can I ask you, whatever you can do, if it's a little bit or it's a lot, please do get involved. There are lots of examples of what you can do on the website, and details of that will be coming through shortly. But what we also wanted to do is just to give you a little bit more of an example. We're just about to play a video now from last year or the year before. Thank you.
We did events over a whole period of months up to the end of the year, given how the pandemic just affected what was planned. But there was a wonderful spirit which said we're still going to do this. So companies, organisations often did just that little bit more. Wonderful series of events. So we had, in the good times, cycle rides, we had the bake-offs, we had the famous dog competition, and one that I really loved, helping young people in their interview and interview skills. So super. All sorts of organisations chose their own thing to do. So I just want to say a big, big thank you, because once again, at tough times, we've seen that incredible spirit of generosity across our business community, and hope when the Giving Day comes around again this summer, we'll be in better times. We might be able to come together for events. Let's hope so. And indeed, once again, we'll see an incredible, thoughtful spirit of community from our corporate sector.
Great, and thank you, Ian, for sharing your thoughts with us there. And as I hope you all can see, there's so many benefits and ways that people can get involved, and it's great to see the variety of giving that has happened previously over the last couple of years. As I said, don't forget we have got the chat function for any questions that come to mind, so please do get asking away. But now we all know that the pandemic has affected everyone in many different ways, and I think one thing that a lot of people can really relate to is the effect that it's had on our own mental health, and maybe that of our colleagues, family, friends, and also their well-being. And on that note, I would like to delighted to introduce you to Ruth Coates, who is the Deputy Director of Operations at the charity Birmingham Mind, who is able to tell us more on the health benefits of volunteering today. Ruth has extensive breadth of knowledge, having worked in the voluntary sector for over 20 years, although you really don't look like you could have worked in the sector for 20 years, Ruth, but working with and supporting volunteers for almost all of that time. Starting off at MenCap, she later worked for Community Service Volunteers and then SOVA, working with offenders and those at risk of offending. And as I said, Ruth has a wealth of experience through different roles and volunteering experiences, and understands the vital importance of looking after and talking about our own mental health. And I know I'm really looking forward to hearing about this from you, Ruth. And with that, I'll let you tell us more. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. That was a great build up. Thank you very much. And thank you, Ian, as well, actually, because that was some of the themes you touched on were really appropriate. So as Amanda says, I have been in the voluntary sector for a very long time. Many of my roles that I've had actually came from volunteering. So I started off as a furniture restorer. So it's been a weird route. I don't know whether my camera's on. I'm going to keep ploughing on. So volunteering has touched me and made my life very different, and hopefully some of the stuff that we do in terms of voluntary sector volunteering has touched other people. So I'm going to go next slide, which I think is the thing. So volunteering roughly is giving time freely for the benefit of others, but it's a really wide principle, volunteering, and so there's so many different ways you can volunteer, and I think Ian mentioned so many different ways as well. And there's formal, there's informal. It's about, though, the main thing is free and for other people. So it's about benefiting other people, but also I'm going to talk about how it benefits you. So it's a sideline in benefiting you. So next slide, please. Thank you. Oh. So one of the kind of key models in mental health is this 5 ways to well-being. And this was originally commissioned by the UK government some years ago from the New Economics Foundation. And what it wanted was a sort of evidence-based action approach to well-being and what you can do as people and as organisations. Birmingham Mind and National Mind use this a lot. Lots of local government use this. And if you go through the petals on this diagram, we can kind of talk about how this relates to volunteering. And I think you can probably see it relates really closely. So if we look at the kind of keep learning, so volunteering gives you the chance to learn new skills. It gives you the chance to have new experiences. It builds on existing skills, but also it kind of puts you in new places. So and skills you would never have thought were needed or you could use, you know, things like furniture restoration skills, for example, that you might not use day to day, but also then you can learn from the organisations that you work from and the people that you work from. You know, learning from other people is really, really important. Their skills, how you fit in, practical skills, and from all of that you learn about yourself and things that you're good at that you perhaps wouldn't know that you were very good at. And so connecting, most volunteer work is working with others. That may be other people, it may be animals, it may be anything, but it's about connecting with others. If you're providing mentoring for young people, driving people to hospital, walking dogs, there's all communities around that. It's connecting people and experiences outside of your usual environments, your day-to-day, your 9 to 5. These kind of connections that you build up can contextualize your own experience and give you a world of other people's experience. So give, and perhaps this is the most obvious connection to volunteering, but it isn't nanny-ish. Volunteering isn't about doing good, and you know, this idea of helping those less fortunate, because a lot of people in receipt of volunteering are less fortunate. They just have different needs at different times. So it's about using your skills, enhancing your skills, and providing that support where it's appropriate, where it's needed, in the time that it's needed for those events and for those people. It's often seen as altruistic, so you know, you're doing good for the sake of doing good, but I think at its best it's not altruistic because it's transactional. And I hope some of this comes across, that you're giving of you, but actually you're receiving quite a lot. So you're able to kind of get all of those benefits from other people and those interactions. If we have a transactional relationship, for us as an organisation and for providers of volunteer experience, it means those people are coming back because they're answering some question in themselves, whether that is just feeling good about yourself or, you know, using some skills that you wanted to use. If that is a coexisting relationship, it's a much longer relationship and it's much more beneficial. And seeing the world through other people's eyes, actually doing that kind of transactional thing providing support increases your endorphins, which help reduce pain. And also doing good things or feeling you're doing good creates serotonin, which actually reduces stress and anxiety. And some of those endorphins help you look younger, which maybe goes back to Amanda's view about my age, which, bless her, was kind. And being active. So there's something about being physically active. Mentally active is also really important. So, you know, we can run a marathon for a good cause, and that's about kind of, you know, our health and getting our heart rate up and being physical. But actually having a reason to go out the house, having some responsibilities, and volunteering can give you that, you know, not just going to your workplace, or if you're lucky enough to have a role and a job, but actually, you know, a structure around your day-to-day. It lowers blood pressure, you know, that kind of activity, getting on the bus, going somewhere, going to visit somebody, going to see somebody, going to experience new things. It gives that structure and gets you out and about. And the taking notice. Now, I think probably most of you will know this as mindfulness. And this, I think, is quite good for everybody, you know, not just volunteering, to take a moment out of your day and just really notice where you are. And it doesn't have to be attending a mindfulness class. You can practice it every day. You can kind of stop for a moment, really focus on something else. And actually, if you're volunteering, sometimes you'll be so focused on other people. If you're walking dogs for the dogs home, you are focused on those dogs so they don't run off. You know, you can't think about that extra world, that stress, maybe that feeling, you know, that bill that you have to pay, or that you know, overdue library book, to be a bit old school. But you know, those negative unwanted thoughts that do come in very often to our day to day, and that maybe it's a work thing, maybe you've got a stress at work, and being at work is not helping you, you know, think away from that. It's actually giving you another purpose and another focus. So those are the 5 steps to well-being. So a lot of the volunteering statistics are quite stark, really, and so the research from Mind, which is National Mind, talk about confidence, new skills and work experience, and that's very much in that kind of way of volunteering to learn new skills to perhaps kickstart a career or change career. It still reflects on those 5 ways of well-being, because it, you know, the developing skills is all about, you know, the kind of learning new things and applying those things, and giving the opportunity to apply it outside what you normally do. And volunteers come from all age groups. A lot of that, the idea of young people using volunteering to enhance their CV, but you know, any age can do that. And actually, you know, there's roles around trustees where you can bring in skills that actually might give you the opportunity to go and work somewhere else and change your career and look at something differently. New slide, please. Thank you. So National Mind has almost 3 times the amount of volunteers as it does staff, which goes to show the impact. Samaritans have over 20,000 volunteers and have minimal staff. And where I used to work, a charity called SOVA had 120 staff and 800 volunteers. So a lot of that role was actually what can we create for volunteers to do, and harnessing that amazing workforce. Much of the voluntary sector runs on volunteers, and I'm sure we'll speak later about how much impact people have who are volunteers. And the impact for me, I know, is when we've worked with people that have been in really quite difficult positions, and we've done, you know, volunteer mentoring, some of the feedback about the idea that somebody is prepared to do something for nothing for them is huge. It's a real impact, and it makes people really stop, because sometimes when people are in difficult situations, they're used to the professional working with them, you know, providing things, you know, whether it's a probation officer or a voluntary sector worker. But the idea that somebody would give time freely for them is massive. It makes a real difference to somebody's own self-confidence. New slide, please. So Birmingham Mind, we are one of the largest of the mines. I kind of call them small mines, but that gives a whole different picture. We've got 40 active volunteers. And part of the benefits that we get are, you know, the different skills and experiences that people bring in. So some of the experiences you have around finance, you know, those kind of things can really help. And I think Ian touched on that. People who have experienced mental ill health themselves coming back and saying, actually, this worked for me. And that works not only for our people using our services, but it helps us to enhance what we do and kind of learn whether or not we're doing the right thing and in the right way. It helps us diversify our workforce and look like the people of Birmingham, you know. So with what we've got 228 staff, we do represent quite a lot of people in Birmingham, but we do struggle sometimes for male employees, and so volunteers coming in can help us with that. And it also feeds that mental health message for us, so people can have an experience meeting somebody maybe for the first time that are having mental ill health. It can pop some of those fears. You know, we hear it in the news about they you know, had a mental health problem and they did these terrible things, but you don't hear of the really good stuff. And they're almost are people out in the community that can talk to their families and their friends about mental health and take some of the fear out, and hopefully encourage people to talk about their own mental health and realise that actually it's everybody. And then there's corporate volunteers, and they come and help maintain our sites, you know, helping with painting and gardening in groups, and that's really helpful for us. And then all those hundreds of people that run and walk and leap and do lots of voluntary sector stuff like charities. And I noticed Ian had quite a lot of medals, so I think that may be something Ian wants to think about. So, to not wanting to overrun, I think the COVID-19 pandemic, what it's done is created people, sorry, next slide. It's created all sorts of ways that people can volunteer, and they're volunteering informally and formally, and they're taking their neighbours out to the hospital and they're helping the shielded. And that massive rise in work around giving is something we need to harness, but sometimes isn't something we need to formalise. Next slide, please, because otherwise I'm going to overrun and everybody's going to be really angry with me. And let's have the next one. It's given the opportunity to people that wouldn't know where to go to volunteer, the opportunity to do random acts of kindness, and creates communities and brings people together. And as I say, I don't want to necessarily formalise everybody's acts of volunteering. And I'm not, next slide, I'm not here necessarily to, you know, terribly flout Birmingham Mind as an opportunity, because there's loads of volunteering opportunities outside Birmingham Mind in the sector. There's obviously homelessness, working with people coming out of prison, there's mental health, there's loads of opportunities that can suit what you want to do. And in the end, in harnessing that kindness and those community acts can do us all good as communities. We all understand each other better. We all create moments which make other people feel good, and therefore we feel good about ourselves. And obviously there's Birmingham Mind. Next slide. In fact, whiz to the end, because I'm getting towards 1 o'clock and I don't want to be Miss Unpopular. That's it. That's how you can get involved if you wanted to volunteer with us. But also you could go to doit.org. They will give you the opportunity to look at volunteering opportunities across the city in all sorts of different ways. So that was me rushing through. I thought I was well timed. But if you do want to contact us, and also if you are struggling with your own mental health and you just want somebody to talk to, then you can ring that number, because you can actually talk to somebody on our 24-hour helpline. That was a shameless plug. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Ruth. Great. You didn't have to rush. We could have made the time up somewhere, but it was great to hear what you got to say. And I love the bit about the keep learning bit and the connecting bit, and the happiness effect. Volunteer once a month and you're 7% likely to be more happier than what you are now, which is fantastic. So thank you. So we've heard quite a bit already today, and what I do want to do now is just share a short video clip just to show you a couple of businesses that have taken part previously in the last couple of years. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Damien. I'm from Haig & Co. Wanted to talk to you a little bit about the West Midlands Giving Month. We got involved in this last year as a business and also in partnership with the Edgbaston Priory Club. It was a fantastic way to get engaged with local West Midlands charities, to give something back to the local charities rather than the national charities that we see every single day. We partnered with the Priory Club and we managed to raise over £3,000 for Parkinson's UK, but specifically the division within the West Midlands. Now, that particular charity is very close to my heart, as my mum has been suffering from Parkinson's for the past 12, 13 years or so. It's had a fantastically positive impact on our business, not just from a corporate responsibility point of view, but the team loved it. We had a fantastic day, both the organisation and the actual setup of the day, which is a 100-mile spin-a-thon at the Priory Club. It was a brilliant way to actually give back to the charity that we chose. I would 100% urge local businesses to get involved and find out more about what you can do to give back to your local region as well. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jo Harris, Lloyds Banking Group's Ambassador for the Midlands. Supporting our local communities is really important to us at Lloyds Banking Group. Now more than ever, our communities and charities need our support to help recover as we emerge from the pandemic. We're delighted to be supporting the West Midlands Giving event again this year. It's a great way to bring people and businesses across the West Midlands together to celebrate giving to local charities and communities across the region. It's always wonderful to see our Lloyds Banking Group colleagues from all over the West Midlands getting involved, giving skills, giving time, giving funds and donations, from delivering virtual digital workshops, helping local people and charities improve their digital skills and financial capabilities, and across our branches, colleagues held lots of fundraising events, including a walking challenge and even some fantastic bake-offs. Many of our colleagues have previously spent the day volunteering at local charities, helping to prepare meals and food parcels for homeless people and collecting and donating essential items for families in need. We also ran some charity COVID response forums that offered a safe place for charity leaders to share some of the challenges that they were facing and get valuable insight and support from local businesses to help overcome them. The great thing about giving is that it helps to strengthen our relationship and make connections with our local communities, which is what is really important to Lloyds Banking Group colleagues as they continue to support local charities and organisations all year round. I'm always immensely proud to see the difference they make in the communities they serve, and colleagues tell me that they feel that sense of pride too. Volunteering is a great opportunity for us to do something different to our day job, learn new skills and increase our knowledge and understanding of the challenges people are facing in the communities we work in. We're looking forward to the Giving Month in 2021. While it will be different again this year, there are still lots of ways everyone can get involved, and it's really important that we do, as now more than ever charities and local community organisations really need our support.
That's great, and I always love hearing about what other businesses and things have been doing with Haig & Co, and it was a fantastic peloton that they did last year, which was brilliant. So we've heard lots already today, and now I'm delighted to welcome back Andy. He's going to be joined by Jean Templeton, who's the Chief Executive of St Basil's, who has been there since the year 2000. I think there's a song there somewhere. And prior to that, had spent over 20 years experience of managing housing and neighbourhood services in a number of local authorities across the North East and the Midlands. Alongside that, Jean is also a member of the Birmingham's Housing Partnership Board and the Birmingham Social Housing Partnership Executive. She sits as chair of the West Midlands Combined Authority Homeless Task Force and is a member of the government's advisory panel on rough sleeping and homelessness. And if all that wasn't enough, she also chairs the National Youth Homelessness Parliament. And with that, I will hand over to Andy and Jean, who are going to tell us a little bit more about charities and what they need across our region. Thank you.
And I think you're starting, Jean, aren't you?
Am I? Oh, okay.
That was what I was told. Yeah.
Well, I mean, first of all, I'd just like to say that Ruth has just done the job of convincing, like what a fantastic job in terms of making the case for volunteering and the importance of that, the kind of mutual benefit. And so that was really great. And then Ian talking about the kind of elements, and the thing, Andy, and you know this, that I'm sort of keen on, the thing I would add to what Ian was saying as well as is that jobs and routes into employment is really important as well. So certainly, you know, as an organisation that works with younger people, we know that young people's education and their employment experiences are really compromised during this time. And that also impacts on their housing, their ability to keep their homes. So again, I think businesses and those who are thinking about, those who are employers, you know, how can we ensure that those pathways into employment work for everyone? But I suppose I just wanted to say that I think, you know, businesses are under huge pressure too. They're under massive pressure, as we can see as a result of COVID. And we, you know, the voluntary sector, the charitable sector, is that we're all experiencing it in different ways. And I think for me, it's about the number of things. One, what kind of region, what kind of society do we want collectively? And then how can we use our collective skills and our resources? And how can we have those respectful conversations between sectors, so that we make sure that the businesses and those that are able to give don't waste their valuable time and resource, and it's really meaningful. And that also we understand what they want to get from it as well, and that they also are clear about how can they best use those skills and resources that they have. And it feels to me like there's never been a more important time to be having those really meaningful conversations, so we all make best use of the resources.
Jean, you are spot on. I thought I'd tell a little story around this, might try to illustrate how sometimes a bit of lateral thinking can work on both sides of it. But perhaps I should just first call out what I think has been perhaps one of the most interesting examples that flew by, where Joe from Lloyds talked about what one of the many things that they did was actually provide digital skills training for people leading charities. I mean, that is the classic example of teach someone to fish, isn't it? And I just thought that was lovely that was something that came out, because that was something they had a capability of doing, and they could move it into. And lots of small charitable organisations, the skills of their leaders are really, really important for development. So I thought it was a lovely example of a win-win. But the story I'll tell is slightly different, because I hope this will get people to think. And it goes back to my time at John Lewis. So it's not a West Midlands story, it's a national story actually. And it was all about the Olympics in 2012 in London. And one of my more sort of ambitious directors came up to me and said, Andy, we should sponsor the Olympics. And I thought, oh yeah, how much is this going to cost us? And he said, 20 million quid. And I said, oh yeah, and you think I'm going to write a check for 20 million pounds? He said, you don't have to. I said, what do you mean you don't have to? He said, we've got lots of things that they will really value. Now, okay, the Olympics might not have been a charity, certainly not a small scale charity, but the principle is exactly the same. They were trying to do something incredible for the whole country, and we had some things that they valued. And so we actually did become a sponsor of the Olympics, Tier 2. It was a very proud day when all the banners, John Lewis' name was there. But and this is perhaps commercially confidential, we hardly spent any cash at all. But we got near to 20 million pounds in value. That's why our name was on it, because we went ruthlessly through what we had that they would value. Just a few examples. First one's probably obvious. We did a lot of their warehousing of their stock. Yes, we have empty warehouses in the summer. Yes, we actually sold a lot of the memorabilia, you might call it. Again, obvious. But then we got a little bit more adventurous. So we actually trained through our staff training function the people who are acting as hosts at Heathrow. And so when foreign groups arrived at Heathrow, the welcome was provided by John Lewis, because in those days we thought we were quite good at that type of stuff. And you know, that was something we could do, no skin off our teeth, but there was real value to the national effort. And I was very proud that when people flew in from around the world, it was a John Lewis person who trained the host who would then receive them. But perhaps the maddest example, which again might get people just to think about this, is the equestrian show jumping circuits in Greenwich Park. It was John Lewis delivery drivers who built and dismantled those. And it was just a lovely moment where our chaps when they felt they were doing something for, I should say, chaps and women. We had men and women delivery drivers, and they felt they were doing something for the national endeavour. And of course, people running the activity didn't have to pay because that was our donation in kind. And actually, the list went on and on and on of things that we did. But I'm sure, or I hope, businesses listening will get the point. You all have things that will be incredibly valuable to charities, whether it be digital training, whether, frankly, I just don't know. It might be all your sort of HR skills. It might be your financial management skills. If you can take on the finance director of a small charity and give them new skills, it might be your IT systems that you could help charities build them. There are things you have that have a value, and that, Jean, is, I think, about how we get a win-win from both sides of this.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that conversation is really important, because the other side, just being controversial for a second, and not that I am normally, but just being controversial for a second, sometimes, so if you take something like homelessness, for example, sometimes there is a general perception that actually, you know, this is dead easy, you could just deal with it, all you need to do is just this or just that, and I hear that quite a lot. And sometimes there is not the understanding of the complexities of some of the issues that underlie those complex problems, and the skill set within the organisations, within the voluntary sector, within the charities is sometimes not fully appreciated. And so I think those conversations are really important, because the worst thing is if businesses waste their resource, or actually even do things inadvertently that contribute to maintaining the problem rather than tackling the issue. Now, I'll give you an example, and another little story really, and I'm not going to name the organisation because it wouldn't be fair, but this was an organisation who secured public sector contract to do lots of external works and things, and as part of that work, they'd signed up to the corporate social responsibility charter, and they were keen to deliver on that. And they thought that they'd like to do something around homelessness because they saw lots of people out and about sometimes on the streets. So, you know, as Ian suggested, or as Ruth, I think, mentioned, they got in touch with local authority. They put them in touch with charities working in that field, and they emailed out to us, wrote out to us. Now, we happened to reply to that, and so they came to see us, and they were lovely, and they came to us and said, so what do you want us to do? Do you want us to give out sleeping bags? Do you want us to give out flasks? Do you want us to give out food to people that are homeless? And we said, no, don't want you to do any of that. Don't want you to do that at all, because we do not want people to be on the streets at all. And we certainly don't want them to have to stay on the streets in order to get those things. What I want from you is your jobs. What I want from you is a pathway into your employment. Now, they were kind of a bit taken aback, but so we said, well, how do we do it? So they gave us job descriptions, they opened up some jobs, we put them out to our young people, we prepared those young people, and jointly they interviewed, they appointed, they were so blown away by those young people, they appointed 6 young people initially. And then we supported them to keep those young people through very difficult times, because, you know, it's not easy in work. We also provided training for their management on complex trauma and the issues, so that, you know, that mutual benefit has now made this a long-term relationship. Their commitment is to looking at 10% of their workforce to be filled by young people that have experienced homelessness. So the point, it's back to your point as well, it's not always about thinking, right, I know what I want to give, I'll do that. It's about really having those joint conversations, because as Ruth said, whether it's you as an individual or you as an organisation, everyone can benefit from it, and it is making the best use of those scarce resources, I think, at really, really important times.
So do you think, it's a wonderful story, Gina. I'm not going to ask you to name the organisation, but it does sound a fantastic outcome that they did that in terms of their employment policies, just brilliant. But I absolutely get what you say, because perhaps this is stretching the analogy, but the John Lewis story and the donations we gave, it's probably worth saying we didn't know what would be of most value. We decided we'd go quite humbly, I think, and said, we'd like to help. We are prepared to put things of value on the table. You tell us what would be most valuable. And I suspect most charities could respond to an invitation of that nature from a commercial organisation. to say, you tell us. And then, of course, your point is also right. The charities give something back. Our people who were those greeters at Heathrow, my goodness, they grew feet in terms of self-confidence in doing that. And so that's, again, to every business on this call, I would say, of course, there's a generosity of spirit. There's, of course, the right thing to do in terms of social responsibility. But there's also something you will definitely get out, just as Ruth's slides made incredibly clear as well. But I think it's that dialogue, isn't it, between the charity and the...
I think it is. Yeah, it is most certainly the dialogue. And because our margins as charities are tiny. Okay, we have to run quite complex organisations and services with tiny margins, and particularly if you took out the charitable fundraising contribution. So two elements of that really is, one, we have to pay for professional skills, all sorts of things. Ruth described some of them: finance, accountancy, legal services, HR services, training, development, IT, all of those are part of it. So if you can have a meaningful relationship on a pro bono basis with organisations, that really is what you need, and not something that can just be given to you that sometimes actually you take, because what you really want later on is another relationship and have some funding. So let's, we need to be grown up about this in terms of the relationship stuff as well. But if we can supplement some of our costs, then that's great, because that helps as well. And then the money that you do have can go on the front line. But the other side of it is, it's volunteering, jobs, all the other things we talked, skills, really, really important. But we can't get away from the fact that giving, unrestricted giving as well, is a massive issue. And we know that's very, very precious. But one of the Business on Films talked about local. Really see what happens in your region, in your area. Understand what that organisation does. Understand what its impact is. Make that relationship, and then you can't get away from the financial bit, quite frankly, because that's what keeps all of those going. And that, to me, is that corporate citizenship, as you say, beyond CSR. That is about us all owning, some of the really challenging, sort of complex, the wicked issues, if you like, and trying to create the kind of region that we want to live in, that's respectful and is inclusive. Andy, you always talk about inclusive growth.
I do.
That's kind of what we're all trying to do, I think.
And Jean, you and St Basil's have been absolutely the beacon for creating that. So I'm sure everybody's heard your last point. There is, despite all my ideas about giving in kind, which is right for some businesses. You can't substitute for hard cash to provide the services that you do. But Jean, once again, thank you for what you do day in, day out, and all those things that Amanda called out in the introduction as well, that you do beyond the charitable work in this city. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was absolutely brilliant. Thank you, and I love the passion, Jean, that just comes and infuses from you when you talk about things that are clearly really, really close to your heart. And doing the role that I've done now for 4 years now in the Midlands, that mutual benefit and those long-term relationships are absolutely critical to building a better and fairer society for everybody. And now what I really want to do, because there's nothing, as we've already heard from Jean, but there's nothing better than actually hearing it from the charities themselves of how they've benefited from being involved in previous giving days over the last couple of years, and the mutual benefit that's come from that business relationship. So we've got a short video clip now of a couple of local charities, one in Birmingham and one over in Wolverhampton, just to tell you a little bit more about what they've got out of it. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Marcia Lewinson. I'm the CEO of Women Acting in Today's Society, a Birmingham-based charity that supports women going through domestic abuse with practical and emotional support and refuge accommodation. We have support from lots of businesses in the city, from SMEs to restaurants to hotels. We rely on the support from our supporters to enable us to deliver many of the services that we use to help women to get away from their situation and to rebuild their lives. Some businesses volunteer their skills to help us using their team days to decorate our refuge. That's the normal way that businesses think that they can help. But there's lots of other ways, as I've said before. Some businesses help us with helping the ladies to learn new skills. So for example, managers from Lloyds Bank volunteer their time to deliver employability workshops and also finance workshops, helping women to budget better. Other businesses support us with our fundraising events. Waitson's known for its social events in terms of raising funds. Our gala balls, our salsa nights are famed in the city. But without the support of establishments like the Jam House and the Rope, we wouldn't be able to put on such events. Hotels like the Hyatt not only have helped us when we have had our balls there, but also donated prizes as well that have benefited the ladies that we support. Other support that we get in terms of time. So some businesses allow their staff to come and share their expertise with our clients on our employability program. So Pertemps have helped us with interview skills. They've come in and delivered workshops. Other ways that businesses have really been a big help to Waits is with donations and helping us with gifts in kind as well. So, how can you benefit from such fabulous support the city? Don't be afraid to build connections with local businesses as well as big brand businesses as well. And find that the local need is very much on the agenda and they will support you.
Hi, I'm Kevin Staunton. I'm the Development Officer at St George's House Charity in Wolverhampton. We provide a range of services for vulnerable, excluded and marginalised men. Being part of the West Midlands Giving has raised the profile of the charity, but far more importantly, it's raised the profile of the most important people here at St George's Hub, the clients. How has it had a positive impact on the charity? Well, we've developed a really strong rapport with local businesses. It's great that local businesses can really participate and help real small charities like ourselves to carry on the vital work that we do. One thing I would say to other charities, it's a really excellent way to highlight the fantastic work that you do. Sometimes the voluntary sector does not shout loud enough about the work that it takes part in. The pandemic's really illustrated how important community is and the private sector working in partnership for the most vulnerable in this community.
Amanda, you're on mute.
Sorry, bit of technical issue, talking away to myself there. I was on mute. Does help if you unmute yourself, doesn't it, with these things? The joys of virtual, eh? So it's great to hear from both Waits and St George's over in Wolverhampton, and I know over the years they've really benefited from their connections and relationships that they've built with businesses of all sizes across the Midlands. So that's brilliant. So we've heard from everyone today, from our speakers, and now it's time to go to our Q&A panel, which we've got Andy, again, we'll be joined by Jean and Ruth. So welcome, but we have two new faces joining us today. So we've got Graham Franklin, give us a wave, Graham, who's from HS2, and he's the Senior CSR Manager there, and works with 3 different charities, work with the Social Mobility Foundation, Groundwork and Rethink Mental Illness. And employers at HS2 support these charities by giving their time and skills through volunteering and also by fundraising. And Graham also sits on the fundraising committee for Rail Aid, which is a nationwide rail industry initiative that raises money for the charity Railway Children. And then we've also got with us as well, which some of you may well recognise the face of Stephanie Bloxham from BVSD in Birmingham. So welcome, Stephanie, too. She supports the voluntary, community, faith, social enterprise sectors in Birmingham, and is absolutely passionate about supporting the diverse organisation groups and citizens making a huge difference all across our region. And he's also very well experienced in working with businesses in delivering their CSR programmes through skill-based and actually practical volunteering. So I've got a brilliant first question for you all. So hands up who wants to answer it, which is a really, really good one actually, because we haven't failed to actually mention this so far, but actually when does Giving Day month start?
You should answer that, Amanda. Go on, well, Graham.
Go on, Graham.
Well, the actual giving month starts in September, towards the end of September, on the 21st of September this year. So that's when the month actually starts, and people can celebrate what they're doing and look to hook up to the events that are being run during the month.
Brilliant, thank you. And of course, last year we had our month, but it actually went over into this year. So there's no saying it has to stay a month. We can carry on for as long as we like, all the better. So we've got a question coming through from a business at the moment that's currently has a charity partner, and they're saying, is it still okay that they can do something for them? Whoever would like to answer.
I'll take that. Yeah, absolutely. If you're already working with an organisation that you've been supporting through business, then absolutely you can do something in line with what you've already been doing, or expand and look to do something else with them. I think have a conversation with them and see what you can explore to perhaps do during that month. And obviously, as Amanda said, it's not restricted to that. So if you're working with them throughout the year, that's brilliant.
Brilliant, thank you. And then Andy, there's one here for you that's come through. I'm not sure if it's a business or a charity actually, but they're saying that if they have some events, whether that's virtual or hopefully might actually get back to getting together face to face come September, October, whether there's any possibility that you might be able to go around to some of the events. I know you have done in previous years. Maybe getting bake a cake, maybe?
I was going to say, if it's bake a cake, that's quite risk-free, isn't it? If it's, I don't know, skydiving, I might have to think about that. But the answer in principle is, of course, it's just the diary constraints as ever. But of course, send the invitation in either through the steering group here or, of course, direct to my office team. Yeah, I'd love to, yes.
Brilliant. There you go. There's a challenge for everybody there. That could be a whole different fundraising event happening. Okay, so then we've got some other ones. Which has been mentioned previously, just to reaffirm on this one, maybe Graham, this could be for you, is how do I register to get involved?
So to register, there will be an email to everyone that's attended and signed up for this event. There'll be an email going out at the end, and you can register. There'll be a link there for you to register. If you want to share that link with others that you know will be interested, that'd be fantastic. And you can also go onto the West Midlands Combined Authority site, which is wmca.org.uk, and go /giving month, and that's where you can find all the details and, in fact, ideas about what you might want to do during the month as well.
Brilliant, thank you. And Jean, I hope you don't mind, but I'm going to ask you this one. So this has come from a charity, and they want to know that they're really keen to get involved and have loved everything they've heard today, but are struggling. They're quite small, but how do I find a business that could actually help me or us? Any hints or tips or thoughts?
That's a really good question, I think. And there is, I think, in fact, Ruth, you might be better at answering this than I am, because you did talk about some means of connecting up, the smaller organisations with the businesses. And is that something that the Combined Authority is able to do the other way in relation to finding businesses? I don't know. But if you're just doing it individually, for me, one, it's what do you need? Okay, so really being clear. What is it that you need? Because then you can look at, okay, well, what kind of business might I want to support me? So if it is skills or it is volunteering, you can look at those. If it's funding or fundraising or something like that, then it's just being clear. So when you go to any business, you're really clear what it is that you're asking for help with. And then again, I think where are you? What's your location? Who's local? Are there, you know, local businesses that are really, you know, put themselves forward, that want to be part of this, that, you know, you think could help you? And sometimes it is just about going and making the introduction and the ask. You know, very often people won't have thought about it, but if you do the connection, but think about it firsthand, what it is that you actually want them to do for you, so that you can make that conversation meaningful, I think.
Definitely echo that. And around, you know, what is it you do as an organisation, as a charity, and is there any sympathetic businesses? Yeah. So, for example, we get support from a big clothing retail because a lot of their young staff have had real struggles with mental health. So it's marrying up those things.
Yeah.
Brilliant, thank you. Anything from the businesses there to add? Maybe Graham and around anything different to say on that one with regards to maybe from the opposite side, for the business trying to get hold of or in touch with the charity to do something?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. You know, from a business point of view, if you haven't got a partnership or a link in with a charity, then I'd strongly recommend, obviously, you know, dip your toe in the water, do get involved. The ways you can do that as a business, again, to kind of echo what Jean was saying, as a business, think about what you want. So actually, what are the challenges you might be facing as a business? You know, do you have a particular skills shortage that you need to address? And then if you do, think about what local charities there might be in your area that are helping other businesses in terms of people coming into the workplace, increasing skills, etc. So there's that side. There's also ask your employees. I mean, this is and echoed from what Ruth was saying. You know, employees get a heck of a lot out of working in the community and working with charities. So actually ask your employees. It's a great way to engage them. It's a great way to engage your workforce. Ask them what areas they're interested in supporting in their local communities, and then take a look when you get the feedback from them.
Brilliant. Thank you. Andy?
Can I just emphasise one thing in what's been said? And lots of people have used this word, but I want to put a big line under it. Think local. Whichever side of the equation you are, the best likelihood of a charity getting business support is from the immediate businesses. We've had wonderful examples through the pandemic of startups that have got that from their local business community, and indeed the other way around, because there's nothing that motivates employees more than supporting those people who are genuinely addressing a local issue. So that immediate piece. If someone's stuck on one side of it, I don't mind. No promises, and I can't deal for this for 400,000 businesses across the West Midlands. But if there's a simple case of one, I'm sure my policy advisor Suki Nijah, who's behind all of this morning, wouldn't mind receiving a note, and then we can just see if there is an obvious contact to be made. But think local, think about your immediate business supporters.
Brilliant, that's fantastic. Thank you for that. So we only have one more question. So we've not had anything else come through the chat as yet, but one more. So will be our last question before I hand over, if nothing else comes through. Is that we've got someone here that's an individual actually, that's sole trader on their own, but wants to do something. What can I do? Open to all of you.
You could. I mean, sorry.
Go on, Ruth, after you. No, Ruth, you go ahead.
Well, if you're on your own, I mean, I think, you know, nobody's really hopefully on their own, but, you know, it's bringing in customers, maybe really simple things about bringing money in is holding little events, or, you know, do a run, do a walk. Maybe that will help, you know, with your customer base as well, get them involved. Something that's kind of building that community around your business and the people that you employ, and those people that use your services. Probably other people have got much better examples.
Brilliant. Thank you, Ruth.
I think the other thing to add as well is that even though we're looking at the Giving Month, we're obviously thinking about, you know, that kind of ongoing support that people might want to be able to provide. So there's lots of volunteering opportunities out there. You know, check. There's some really great websites you can check through your local councils for the voluntary sector, such as BVSD covering Birmingham, but there are others across the region, and they'll have some fantastic details about volunteer opportunities out there that get promoted. Some of them can be short term, so if it's something that, you know, you just want to try it, if you haven't done some volunteering already, and then that could kind of give you an idea of what else you could do in the future. So yeah, I think there's lots out there that you can do, even if it's just as an individual, and it will all obviously make a huge difference.
Brilliant, thank you.
Can I just add to that? Sorry, I was just going to add to that, I mean, sole trader is probably in a similar position to many of us as charities. You know, you're small, you're trying to make all your resources like really do what needs to happen. So, I mean, again, it's thinking about what you're interested in, thinking about local, but lots of charities. I know, for example, we have a kind of fundraising pack which helps people that want to do things to keep them safe. Think about safeguarding issues on the right side of the, you know, all those sorts of things. And I'm sure other organisations have got the same. So, as Ruth said, you know, don't feel like you're on your own for this. If you kind of think about what you'd like to do and what kind of issue or area you're interested in, then I'm pretty certain that, you know, we can between us help you make some connections.
Brilliant, thank you all for that. So I've just had a quick check. We've got no other questions coming through. So with that, I'll say a big thank you to our panel and some really great ideas, insights coming from there. And I just want to say, before I hand back over to Andy to close our session for his final thoughts and close the event for us, is just to say a big thank you to everybody today that's taken part, and the videos that have been pre-recorded that we've shown. I think that the charities, the businesses, everybody, and all the work that's gone behind the scenes to pull this together, a big thank you from me as chair of the steering committee. And we're all volunteers, so it's kind of fitting everything in amongst day job as well. And also, of course, thank you for everyone that's come along to attend today as well. And I know I will certainly be sharing the content of this with colleagues and friends and family and local contacts and networks and things to encourage them to get involved as well. And just a quick reminder that you will be sent all the information will come out to you with regards to links, because as I say, it's being recorded, along with any other links that have been mentioned as well throughout today, so you will have access to it. And I hope you all enjoy this wonderful sunny day that we're having, and hopefully continue into the weekend. And Andy, I'll pass over to you if I can, and to close everything off for us. Thank you.
Amanda, thank you very much, and indeed thank you to everyone there on the panel, all their individual experience from their own work. Fantastic. I have to just say, Amanda, if all else fails at Lloyds, you have a perfect job as MC for Zoom meetings, because you've achieved what nearly everyone fails to do, to bring the whole thing in just a couple of minutes early, so we all get a cup of tea before we go to our next Zoom meeting. So Amanda, thank you for running it so perfectly. Thank you for chairing the steering group, and most importantly to everybody, thank you for what you're going to do for the Giving Month, because I think what we've heard today from everybody who's spoken is there's a sort of alchemy. 2 and 2 is 5. 2 and 2 can be more than just the sum of its parts. You know, we can get extra if we get businesses really thinking about what they have that charities need, and charities thinking about what they have that helps businesses grow their employees, take on new people, perhaps vulnerable people. So there is an absolute win-win to have, which is the spirit of doing all of this. A little extra money is raised along the way. That's also, as Jean reminded us, there's no substitute for hard cash, but actually it's that sort of alchemy, I'll use that word again, it's the right word, that we're really talking about here. So thank you to everybody for today, and good luck for your plotting for September. And as we've said, we look forward to seeing just what comes to pass. Thank you all very much. Cheerio, bye.